Hello there, and welcome to part 2 of the Colombia podcast. Part 2. If you haven't heard part 1, you should probably hear that first, but you know how numbers work. Could you give me a quick review? It's quite helpful. I don't make any money out of these podcasts, I just do them as an audio diary, but it is quite helpful to get reviews because then more people find it, and hopefully it helps them travel the world. This is Colombia, part 2. As I walk through the jungle now, I've just left my motorbike at the side of the road briefly to record this. I was going to record it whilst riding the bike off-road and then realised that it's so intensely complicated that if I tried to talk at the same time, I would almost definitely drive off the side of this absolutely gorgeous volcano. Now, it doesn't feel like a volcano because I'm about halfway down it now and the temperature's warmed up from 0 degrees, where it is at the top, there's a glacier at the top, to where I am now, halfway down, and it's probably about 18 degrees. And if I get to the bottom, then I should be rewarded with 22, 23 degrees. It's absolutely exquisite, aside from the fact that you don't get a lot of time to take the view in when you're petrified, riding across all sorts of bizarre surfaces. Mud, stones, gravel, more mud, really stony bits, a few waterfalls. Yes, I rode across a couple of streams. And I'm sure for a lot of guys, this is like their standard off-road holiday, but it's all new to me. But anyway, that's why I do these things, to challenge myself, and my God, have I done that. Now that I'm off the bike, I can see hummingbirds in the distance, huge trees that seem to go up probably, I'd say, nearly 100 metres above me, with vines hanging down, a few fern leaves, and all kinds of vibrant tropical plants, and all being serviced by various different extraordinarily colourful hummingbirds and birds of paradise. It's absolutely obscenely beautiful. And if I knew more about flora and fauna, I would probably be having a field day. I've run into a few bird watchers, and I also did a bit of research, and I found out, and here's a great fact about Colombia, it's got more wildlife species per unit square than any country in the world. So that is to say, yeah, Brazil's got more wildlife species, but it's also significantly bigger. So if you look at the size of Colombia and look at all the wildlife species it's got, it has the most varieties of wildlife species per square kilometre, for example, than any other country in the world. So it really, I mean, I was thinking the other day, and my pathetic knowledge of plants, I've never seen that one, never seen that one, never seen that one, and after a best part of a week I've been here now, I can say it just never stops. Even if I speak, I'm looking at the beautiful purple petals from some vibrant thing that makes a pansy look boring, that have come down from the forest above me. It's a very unused trail that I thought I'd see a bit of traffic on. I haven't seen any at all, so pretty exciting. If I did fall over the edge, I don't think anyone would notice for days. But having looked at this place, I can say safely that it is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. You're rewarded when you get to the top with 2 luxury hotels that have hot springs, a bit like Blue Lagoon in Iceland, if you like. So you can sort of sit about in hot pools that are connected to the hot springs that have become part of the hotel complex. Really obscenely beautiful, and because it's Colombia, so much cheaper than the sort of thing you might find in other geothermal pools around the world. I was comparing Iceland to here, and basically it's just over 10 times more expensive to hang out in a hotel and drink wine and dip yourself in thermal pools in Iceland than it is here. And I would argue that it's more beautiful here because you've got this sort of, for example, the hotel I stayed at last night near the top of the volcano had an infinity thermal pool. And after a hard day of nearly losing your life on a motorbike, there is nothing better than sitting back and drinking a $1.50, $2 beer in a hot pool, relaxing those bones and feeling as if you've achieved something. So it's just been magnificent. Colombia itself is actually the size of France, Spain and Portugal put together. And for that reason, I've decided that I'm not going to go to Ecuador it's so amazing here, and there's clearly so much to see that I just keep texting Jeff and telling him that I'm going to bring the motorbike back in a few days. I was only going to have it for 2 days, and I'm already up to day 5, and I've written Ecuador off. I can't be bothered. I'll go another time. So basically, I'm just having an absolute ball looking at the bizarre jungle here in Colombia. I've got loads more of Colombia to see, and indeed there's loads that I won't even see. Like, I haven't seen probably the most visited part for most tourists, which is of course the Caribbean coast. I haven't been there, and I don't think I'll be going there. There's another one as well, of course, the Atlantic coast, so I don't think I'll be visiting either coast, and yet still there's more than enough to see inland with all this amazing geothermal landscapes. The tectonic plates shift here in the Andes and create all kinds of amazing jutting out quaint villages nestled high in these beautiful valleys and peaks. So yeah, I would say this is fastly becoming one of the best countries I've ever been to. It is phenomenal. Plus people are friendly, and just it feels really safe. And I know it didn't so recently, and it's so wonderful that it's managed to wake up from its brutal past and become what it is. I feel like, really, in this jungle, I almost feel like I'm in the scenes of Avatar. I half expect some 7.5-foot blue thing with massive eyes to come out, because that feeling of magic that's brought by being in dense jungle, that sort of is quite well shown in Avatar, is in my soul here. It's really beautiful. Banana plantations in the distance, huge leaves that are literally bigger than me. Really, they are. And just these vines and trees that have been growing for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's so nice to see that there isn't some massive logging truck coming down here. The quite hard to book hotel that I was in last night is called Hotel Termales del Ruiz. Termales del Ruiz. And that's got hot springs all around it, and it's exceptionally beautiful. I don't know how they get all this stuff up there, but they even had a New York steak with fries and a bottle of red wine. Now, can I tell you just how much I enjoyed that last night? It was pretty obscene. So if you want to have a look at it, it's Hotel Termales del Ruiz. I believe Termales is the word for hot spring. So if you want to be pampered, then that is the place to go. All right, so I'm going to hit the road again. I'm going to walk back down to my bike, which I left at the side of the road. It's been such an adrenaline rush doing this track, because it's probably only about 15 kilometres, but 15 kilometres on a Suzuki 300 that's got off-road capabilities is it feels like a day by the time you get to the top. But my God, it was absolutely astonishing fun. And now I'm on my way back down. I'm going to go and explore another couple of towns and villages at the foothills of this mountain range, and indeed I'll probably go off to another town. I'll get a couple of pictures for you, chuck them on the old website. Oh, I'm walking way too near the edge, and there's certain death just down there, and the very distant noise of gushing water. Nice. Lush greens, as it rains almost every day here. And of course, if it's not raining, then you're pretty much in a cloud anyway. I've driven through quite a few clouds in the last few days. I a moment ago looked behind me thinking, oh, is that another motorbike behind me? Because I could hear something sort of rattling. Then I thought it was my engine, and then I stopped and realised it was a rattlesnake hidden. Do you know what? I think this is adrenaline-y enough without me having to wrestle a snake. Not really my bag. This is about peak manliness that I'm already achieving. I don't want to get any more manly than this. Alright, here's the bike. I'm back. Pop my phone on the little fella. Turn the key. And continue to explore. I would talk as I was going down the hill, but as I say, chances of me driving off the side of a cliff is kind of high, so I think the whole talking thing's been exhausted for now. Back to the action. If you want to come here, then do look up Hotel Termales, which I believe is Hot Spring del Ruiz, which is the name of this volcano. This volcano, by the way, went off in 1985 and killed 20,000 people. So in case riding a motorbike past rattlesnakes isn't enough, there's the ever-present threat of it popping off. But I don't think that's going to happen because it's since then has been observed by volcanologists, and I'm happy to say there's no seismic activity at the moment. Not until I have another peculiar piece of meat later. Big love, ta-ta. Good morning. Let's find out where I am because I've forgotten. Probably should have looked that up first. I get quite confused with the names of these places. I'm in Hotel Villa Camilla. I know that. Hang on a minute. La Pintada is the name of the town on the Cacao River, a mighty river through Colombia. And La Pintada is absolutely no tourists here. It's quite a small town. I'm on my way back to give the bike back. I rented the bike originally for 3 days, but I fell so deeply in love with Colombia and the idea of being on a motorbike and stopping wherever I want that it's now nearly a week later. I keep texting the guy that I rented it off, who is a great guy, Jeff, saying, hey, this is a lot of fun, can I bring it back tomorrow? And he just keeps texting back, yeah, fine. But I must give it back because I've got to fly back to Bogota tomorrow, and I've got to fly to Toronto the next day. Direct, by the way. Well, happy with that. Yeah, I've got to go and do some work. This life of messing around, enjoying oneself, can only last so long before one has to pull the plug and go and earn some money. So now seems a very good time to say, hey, have you got a Christmas present lined up? If you're anywhere in Canada, why not go to mrphotocanvas.com. Wow, I didn't know I was going to do that. Oh, that's my job, by the way. I make canvas prints. mrphotocanvas.com. The distant sound of a weed whacker underneath the palm trees and banana plantations of a rather nice resort kind of a place. Not for people like me. This is more for Colombian tourists. You won't see any white faces in town, but that's one of the reasons I like it. I was quite a celebrity last night in the bar. And the bar... let me tell you about a Colombian bar, because that's what I wanted to do right now. While I'm loading up the bike, let's just take a little break, wander off across the parking lot and explain to you what happened last night. I was going to record for you. Of course I was. I was going to record last night, but it's impossible to describe the volumes of a Colombian bar. The policy is get the biggest physical speakers you can get that would normally be in a nightclub, 4 speakers, the size of a human, each speaker, okay? Now, the problem is with 4 speakers that are the size of a human, they take up the place of about 4 people. But don't let that stop you, even if you've got a very small bar that only seats about 12 people, putting those speakers in there. And because they're in there, you are going to have to turn them up to full volume, aren't you? Why? Because you're in Colombia. That's why. What's that? You don't really want them on full volume all the time your bar's open because you'll have a pounding headache and distress. Well, never mind that. Just turn them up and enjoy the rhythms. So I was going to record in the bar last night, but there's no point because you wouldn't be able to hear anything other than the world's loudest possible music, which wouldn't sound very good recorded on this device. You might as well just type in Colombian playlist on Spotify and listen to the bizarre sounds of Colombian music, which I say bizarre, of course, it's much like most Latin American music. However, the Germans came here many years ago and did some trade with the Colombians, and the Colombians said, and I'll paraphrase this, I wasn't there, so I'm not exactly sure how it went, but they said something like this: hey, you know those weird squeeze boxes you guys play? Can we have some of those? And the Germans said, well, you can, but you probably don't know how to play them, and it's completely contradictory to absolutely all of the music that you guys play here. After all, you have got the sort of influence of West Africa, where a lot of slaves came from, and the original peoples that were living in these here parts. And the Germans said, what, these accordions? Why are you calling them squeeze boxes? And the Colombians said, because we don't know what they are. It's almost like a bagpipe had sax with a piano That's probably not exactly what they said, but something like that. And the Germans said nine, and then the Colombians said, but we've got these bits of gold and pesos and stuff. Do you want some of them? And the Germans went, yeah, and gave them some squeeze box accordions. So that is definitely exactly how it happened, and as a result of that, the squeeze box has manifested its way into pretty much all of Colombian music. Even the coastal stuff. I haven't been up to the Caribbean coast, but obviously that's more influenced by West Africa, and it's even they have a little go on the squeeze box, but particularly away from those coastal zones, i.e. the Coffee Triangle, the triangle I previously mentioned between Bogota, Medellin, which I'm still pronouncing incorrectly, and Cali. That Coffee Triangle, the main bit where everyone in Colombia lives, you will hear this amazing music, the Colombian music, which incorporates a squeeze box. I suppose now I should probably give you a quick sample. There you go, that's that. Now we're back to the distant sounds of a weed whacker in a parking lot in tropical Colombia. So yeah, that is the music you listen to. Now I went to a bar last night and it had those previously mentioned massive speakers in there at full volume, and it's just obscene. Like, you can't have a conversation with anyone, which is extremely beneficial when you don't speak good Spanish, but you can just sort of smile, down shots of rum and tequila, and have a bit of a laugh, whilst occasionally mixing it up with a couple of nice cold brewskis. And that's what I did last night. Somehow I managed to find myself in a lesbian bar. I don't know if it was technically a lesbian bar, but everyone in there was female, and I thought at first, these people look a bit like lesbians, but who am I to judge? And nowadays you probably can't even say that kind of thing, but they definitely look a bit like lesbians. And then they all started making out, and at that point I thought, yep, I mean, I don't know a lot about lesbianism, but I'm pretty sure they're lesbians. And so I had a drink with them, and a fantastic night, and they picked me up and started dancing with me at one point. So, you know, I don't know how to sell Colombia, but if you want to dance with a load of horny lesbians that can't stop kissing each other, then it's the country for you. It's not exactly how I planned the evening, but it seems to have gone quite well. So that happened, and then I went for a burger and fries, which sounds a bit boring by comparison, but it's bloody lovely because I was really hungry, and just sat opposite a sort of dimly lit motorbike repair shop. Luckily there's nothing wrong with my bike, so I didn't need it. But that was my evening. Just it thundered down with rain, as it does most days at some point, and I just saw the rain bouncing off the street, people riding by and fully wrapped up in wet gear on their motorbikes, and your man over the road tinkering away, fixing a tyre or something, as I supped on a nice cold beer, slightly drunk at this point, and had a burger and French fries. Burger, French fries, 3 beers and a bottle of water, less than $10. I don't even know how that's possible, but that's how they do it here. It is incredible. So it was a cracking night, and then got myself back to bed. Got woken up, of course, by Mr. Weed Whacker over there, who's enjoying himself immensely, while everyone else absolutely isn't. I'm going to jump on the bike now, and it's the last day, sadly, so I'm going to make my way back to the bike shop and give it back reluctantly. Like an episode of Top Gear, I have bonded with my bike a little bit more than I thought, and feel some weird, peculiar love. Not enough to interfere with its exhaust pipe, but definitely enough to give it a little cuddle. So that's what I'm going to do. Ride back, give my bike a cuddle, and give it up. Maybe there'll be something interesting on the way. I can tell you for sure there will be, because this is Colombia. Well, I'm in Medellin airport. Yes, I'm still pronouncing it wrong. And I'm on my way back to Bogota. Just looking at a nun walking past with a face mask on. A white face mask as well. So she really does look about as much like a penguin as you can do. I had to give up the motorbike. It was an emotional moment. Just before I gave it back, I dropped it and broke the brake lever. So I had to chuck him an extra $25 for that one. Also, I couldn't fill it up with gasoline, so I gave it back empty and had to pay another $25 for that one. It's totally my fault. It was a bit dark and a bit hairy the last few moments, but yeah, I'll miss that bike. I've done every form of motorbiking: lashing rain, pitch black, off-road, on-road, through traffic jams, through cities, through epic countryside. Oh my god. Yesterday the countryside was so beautiful alongside the Cacao River that I physically had to stop and just take it all in. It's actually, I think there should be a... Well, hang on. I mean, it's hard to talk over that. Thing is, even if you speak Spanish, you've got no idea what she's saying. You know those guys that do the fairground rides? Scream if you want to go faster, scream if you want to go faster. She went to the same school of emceeing as them. So you might be listening to that thinking, well, I don't know if I can make it out. Nor can anyone. She's got a face mask on, and she's got they don't teach these people how to use mics. That's why it always sounds like that. Because they don't know how to use their equipment. I mean, really? Alright, where was I going with that before she starts banging on again? What was I on about? Oh yeah, yesterday I had to stop by the Cacao River. It's a massive, epic river that takes all the water from the eastern flanks of the Andes all the way across Colombia, about 700 miles, I think, all the way up to the Caribbean coast where it's released into the Atlantic. And I'd love to go up there, and that's sort of what I wanted to say right now, really. I feel like I've just done nothing of this country. I scrapped the idea of going to Ecuador. I travelled as much as I could in a week now on a motorbike, and I feel like I just haven't seen enough. It is epic. Some of the views, just these distant plantations, what feels like kilometres away, looking down through these jutting ravines covered with incredible jungle, like parrots flying around, man, like actual colourful parrots flying around in bizarre Dr. Seuss type trees. It is almost like someone was taking the piss. It is so epically beautiful, Colombia. I can't believe anyone would ever want to leave. Just in a cab on the way here, I went past the billboard that said in Spanish, how to migrate to America, with a big American flag. And of course, there's hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of Colombians living in America. It seems just such an incredible travesty that anyone born in this country would ever want to leave. Yeah, so the misconception is that everyone in Latin America desperately wants to get to America or Canada. And there is some degrees of truth in that. There are a lot of people that do, you know. There's more money to be made that you can send back to your family, as happens internationally. But I only discovered last night, I went out for steak. By the way, it was about $10. I went out for steak again, and I discovered, talking to people, that Medellin used to be the most dangerous city in the world. This is, of course, not far away from Pablo Escobar's hangout, his own house, and his entire... Well, I mean, he owns a town, essentially, not far from Medellin. You could argue he owned Medellin, really. That's why it was so violent. If anyone crossed him, they'd just get instantly killed. And he just did it to prove himself, didn't he, really? Sometimes I think he was bumping people off just because he could. He was, after all, a first-class arsehole. It is a beautiful thing, and I'd love to do this next time, but you can actually go to his old summer house in the valley where he used to do all his dealings. All the cocaine that he controlled coming up from Colombia's Amazon basin, of course, ended up being controlled almost, I think entirely actually, by him, the world's biggest drug kingpin, and you can go to his old summer house. It's all completely been ripped apart, partly because it used to have so much cash in the walls that a lot of looters took the house apart looking for the money, and then of course there was money in the cables and the electrics that you could strip out. So now his house is a shell, so much so you can have a game of pinball there. No, you can't. So much so you can have a game of paintball there. So if you... So much, for fuck's sake. Anyway, that's him. He's dead now. He died at 44. Right, it's getting a bit loud, so I'm going to get on this plane. I'll catch up with you for my last night in Bogota a bit later on. But hopefully this particular part of the podcast was just to say, if you're hovering over the book now button on Colombia, go ahead and press it. It's fucking incredible. One Thai chicken curry, 2 Club Colombias, that's the local beers, 1 espresso, reasonably generous tip, $12. It's obscene. Just dropped me bum bum. I just did a whoopsie in my pantaloons. My pantaloons. I don't know. That's probably it, I think. I might just leave on that note. Like, why should all endings be upbeat? Well, I'll just fade out. This entire trip has been a manifestation of almost complete highs. Of course, dotted, as life always is, with some occasional funks. But weirdly, on this occasion, no lows. You can't avoid it forever, they'll come. But Colombia is good escapism. Yeah, do you know what? I think I'll leave on a sort of melancholic note as I walk around a green, grassy square in downtown Bogota, surrounded by slightly wanky restaurants, actually. It's like this particular part's a little bit Americanized. I'm absolutely convinced I just went to a chain restaurant. I've never seen one anywhere else. But you know when you walk into a place and you're like, oh, this must be a chain. I just did that. So, yeah, it wasn't the authentic end. But I'm really tired. That riding a motorbike in all conditions took it out of me for the last week. In a good way. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it. Come to Colombia, it's amazing. I was supposed to go to Ecuador, I didn't bother because Colombia's too good. I can't even believe I'm leaving already. I could happily stay here for another 2 months. No problem. Maybe take another motorbike up to the coast. Maybe visit the other coast. Maybe I'd go to Colombia's Amazon basin and farm some cocaine. That was a joke. That bit. A little bit of comedy there. Just in case you thought I was tooting my way through the Andes. Alright, big love. I'm going to go and have a cheeky little rum. And then I'm going to go to the hotel. But big love. Keep listening for... What's the next track? Where am I going next? Canada to do some work for a month. If you want any canvas prints of your artwork or photos, go to mrphotocanvas.com. And then London for a bit, and then Lisbon to continue to set up lisboncoworkingspace.com. lisboncoworkingspace.com does what it says on the tin. Most people do stick at the same thing, and I probably should do that, but I'm not very good at that, so I might just bugger off somewhere cheap again because I like it. Hey, it gives me happiness. What gives you happiness? Let me know. Get in touch. I hope that you are happy today, and if you're not, book a trip to Colombia. Ta-ta.
Todos los días yo salía a navegar en mi canoita.
This was mixed and produced in the UK by WeMakePodcasts.uk.